Shenzhou 18 lands back to Earth, spacecraft nuclear propulsion in the US and EU, Australia celebrates a big milestone, SpaceX continues building its second launch pad at Starbase, and fresh news about Starship Flight number 6, ESA and ArianeGroup are showing progress on their reusable rocket Themis. China shows its lunar ambitions. Rocket launches this week. I'm Christophe Paget for All About Space, and this is your Space Update. I would like to start this episode in thanking my viewers who subscribed over the last year and would like to welcome my new subscribers, helping me reach 500 subscribers before Christmas. So thank you all very much for your support. Last week, the Shenzhou 19 mission successfully reached the Chinese space station Tiangong. This week, it was the turn of the Shenzhou 18 mission capsule to return to Earth after 192 days in space. Now, you could see the plasma during re-entry of the capsule and the service module burn up in the footage. The capsule landed safely in China desert. Incidentally, Shenzhou has only one parachute on its capsule, as you could see, and the Shenzhou 16 and now 18 parachutes have had a hole, but anyhow still provided deceleration. It is not known whether the landing speed or impact energy at touchdown was nominal, but it was an interesting observation to show our viewers. The energy density of nuclear reactions such as fission, fusion, matter-antimatter annihilation is about 107 to 109 higher than that of chemical reactions. Now, this makes it possible to envisage enormous improvements in the specific impulse of propulsion systems. Many engines have been developed since the 60s, such as radioisotope, thermoelectric generator, fission thermoelectric generator, thermal nuclear propulsion, or electrical nuclear propulsion, amongst many. Now, all of them had positives but also negatives, which is why to date no such engines are flying on spacecraft. In France, the Atomic Test Center, or CEA, supported by ArianeGroup and Framatome, has started a new project on behalf of ESA called Alumni to review the design and manufacture of a nuclear thermal propulsion engine. Now, this involves heating liquid hydrogen by passing it through the core of a nuclear reactor to transform it into gas and bring it to high temperature before ejecting it to generate thrust with efficiency 2 to 3 times larger than a conventional chemical engine. To illustrate this benefit, a trip to Mars would no longer take 9 months, but only 3 to 4 months. In Belgium, Tractebel, supported by CEA, ArianeGroup, Airbus, and Frazer-Nash, has led a project called Rocket Roll, which recently ended. It aimed at studying the feasibility of an electric nuclear propulsion system where the electricity produced by a nuclear power reactor powers electric ion thrusters, now ionizing a gas and accelerating the ions produced, which are then ejected to generate thrust, with a view to build a flying demonstrator by 2035. Crossing the Atlantic, DARPA, NASA, and Lockheed Martin worked on a world-first demonstration of putting a rocket into orbit using a thermonuclear engine through a project called DRACO, meaning Demonstration Rocket for Agile Cislunar Operations. Nuclear thermal propulsion uses a nuclear reactor to heat the clean fuel to extreme temperatures before expelling it through a nozzle to produce thrust, which is the same principle as the CEA Alumni project. The first demonstrator is expected in 2027. The battle between EU and US on nuclear spaceships is starting. Gilmour Space is developing his rocket called Iris down under a three-stage rocket fueled by proprietary solid fuel and liquid oxidizer on its first and second stages, and kerosene and liquid oxygen propellant on its third stage. This week, Gilmour Space has secured from the Ministry for Industry and Science and the Australian Space Agency his first orbital launch permit for his maiden flight from the Bowen Orbital Spaceport in North Queensland. This is a huge milestone for Australia's space sovereignty. They expect the maiden flight to occur between early December 24 and mid-January 25. Now, this was the last hurdle after Bowen Orbital Spaceport received its operating license in March this year. Now, I will, of course, cover this flight in the future episode, so stay tuned and subscribe to this channel if you have not already done so. At Starbase launch site, the launch mount for the Launch System number 2 has started assembly, where the base is a sort of square rather than looking like a donut shape as seen on Launch Mount number 1. The flame trench was also progressing, with more digging on the center part and concrete poured on the outside. SpaceX has started building the flame diverter for its Launch Mount number 2. Another production site, the office building is growing, which can now be seen thanks to the aerial view from our colleagues at the NSF. The facade is getting more windows. Starship number 24 has now received its last section, the aft part of the rocket, and the work is still going strong inside the Star Factory. Staying with SpaceX, you might be interested to know that SpaceX has just informed the public that they expect the flight number 6 no earlier than November 16th this year, only days away from now, so close to flight number 5, where they will attempt to catch booster number 13 in midair. They also changed the liftoff time to ensure the Starship landing happens during daylight, so keep watching my channel for more information. The China National Space Administration, or CNSA, is actively working on its plans for moon exploration. They have successfully sent several probes to the moon. On May the 3rd this year, Tianji 6 reached the moon's south pole to look for evidence of water and return nearly 2 kilograms of samples back on Earth with evidence of water. Indeed, the samples contained an unidentified mineral crystal that is 40% rich in water and ammonia molecules. Tianji 7, expected to be launched in 2026, will explore the South Pole resources and will include a flying probe, while Tianji 8, expected in 2028, will test in situ resource utilization and 3D printing technology in preparation for manned lunar exploration. Finally, CNSA will send manned spacecraft with 2 taikonauts called Dreamboat and a lander called Embrace Moon around 2029-2030, realizing China's first manned lunar landing ambition. ESA and ArianeGroup have been progressing quite well on their reusable rocket called Themis. Themis is a 28-meter tall rocket using purposely built Prometheus engine, which is almost as powerful as the Ariane 6 Vulcan 2.1 engine. The demonstrator uses reusable technologies such as landing legs, grid fins, aerodynamic stabilizers. Themis main systems testing program has been completed at Vernon test facilities in France. The demonstrator you are looking at has the landing legs, the power systems, avionics, and its engines, which run in liquid methane and oxygen. It has all the necessary components to allow liftoff, vertical landing, and reuse for other missions. The Prometheus engine test program has been successfully completed, demonstrating its ability to deliver variable thrusts as required by the mission, from 30% up to short bursts of 110% thrusts. What is yet to be installed on this demonstrator is the pressurization system to provide pressurized gas to push propellant to the engines. To test this demonstrator, you need a launch pad, which is in Esslingen in Sweden. Preparations are underway to build the Themis test launch facility. Liquid oxygen and methane storage tanks and distribution systems are being constructed. Teams are now finalizing the electric and fluidic ground support equipment. This includes the fuel lines, nitrogen supplies, rocket stands, flares to burn off unused fuel. Even the operations center, called Themis Mission Control, is being put together in a room on a ESA building at Esslingen. The week in rocket launches started on November 4th with an MHI launch of his new rocket H322 from Japan for his mission DSN-3. On the same day, Roscosmos launched a Soyuz 2.1B from Russia for his mission Ionosphera M1 and 2. November 5th, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 from Florida for a resupply mission to the ISS called Dragon CRS-2 SpaceX 31. The first stage flew for his fifth time and landed back to site. On the same day again, Rocket Lab launched an Electron from New Zealand for his mission Changes in Latitudes, Changes in Attitude. And November 7th, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 out of Florida for his Starlink mission Group 677. The first stage flew for his third time and landed on a drone ship. In summary, from January 1st until November 7th, 2024, 207 rockets were launched successfully. Out of that, 128 were from an American company or institution, 13 from Russia, and 5 from Japan. I'll leave you this week with this flamboyant picture from the Chandra X-ray Observatory and the Spitzer space telescopes of the Cygnus OB2, which is the nearest large cluster of stars to our Sun at a distance of about 4,600 light-years from us. The cluster contains hundreds of massive stars as well as thousands of smaller ones. This area was particularly interesting for the researchers as it has the characteristics of a cluster which will not be in the progress of forming into a larger star. Now, all that is related to the fact it diffuses X-ray emissions from larger stars, as seen in purple on the picture. I'm Christophe Paget for All About Space. See you at the next episode of Space News.